ain't hard to choose. For your sport shows, updates, and interviews. The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik right, up all day and all night. Pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the team WSN.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle War Room 6.0. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-hosts as always, Evan McPhillips, Daniel Almeida, and Logan Fulmer. The jam-packed show, a lot of stuff to get into, but before we do, as always, make sure you guys do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live, or upload content from the TWSN Studios. Boys, this is Draft Eve. It's one of my favorite times of the year. It is essentially our WrestleMania, our Christmas, if you will, where we're essentially going to get people added to your favorite football team, and all the months and months of discussing, dissecting players through and through. We'll get to find out who lands where. I feel like this is one of the more interesting drafts because you have so many different players that can go in so many different spots. This year is even weirder because nobody views this quarterback class in the highest of light. So therefore you always have a lot of parity when it comes to other players at other positions. But I'm excited to talk this thing through. With our final War Room episode. I know everybody looks forward to the War Room series. It's crazy to say this is our last one of the year until next year. But I think that we're going to go out with a bang with this one, and we're going to try to talk this thing through. We're going to try to dissect this board and try to see if we can find players that we feel will help the Cincinnati Bengals. A couple things to note before we jump into it. Bengals reworked the contract of Zach Moss because, the Bengals don't really like to say that they retooled or, did something a little bit different with the contracts considering Zach Moss. A lot of people expect him to be out. I think that you still can address running back in this draft at some point, but I think with Zach Moss now back in the fold, you bring back a guy like Samaje Perine. Chase Brown is obviously a running back one. I think that takes that need off the board just a little bit more. You still have the questions to be answered for a guy like Jermaine Pratt. But I'm excited to talk about this thing. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm ready. It's been a long time, and this is our sixth one, and I'm just ready for the draft, man. I think that we've gotten to a place where we've discussed a lot of these prospects, and honestly, I've learned a lot from these guys on the show and even you guys in the comment section. So I feel like this entire War Room process has been fun, and it's honestly been the one where I feel most confident about knowing the most total prospects just because, our time covering at TWSN and, like I said, just interacting with people. So I feel the most confident in my knowledge now of these prospects, and I'm just excited to see where these guys end up, to be honest. You guys?
Yeah, I mean, this is literally by my favorite 3-day stretch of the year. It's absolutely everything I live and die for in sports. It's the draft process, and this whole process is just something that really allowed me to fall in love with the sports. And playing video games, I always did every fantasy draft in the world, and that's kind of where my love for it stems from. And it's just something I continue to dive more and more into. And now we're here doing it, talking about real people in real time, and it's just my absolutely favorite 3 days of the year. I don't even think it's close.
I think that's my favorite thing about it is you get to talk about real people finally after the picks are made instead of having the months long conversation. Like, absolutely, it's fun to dive into the prospects and have these back and forths, but eventually it is nice to put pen to paper, know what fits you're looking forward to, kind of understand what your team's going to be, and kind of look forward to hopefully a lot of rookies contributing in the first year in the NFL.
All right, so we ready to get this board rolling. We got this going a little faster on this one, but let's get this draft underway, folks. Cam Ward, Titans.
Tevin McMillan at 2. Whoa, what in the world?
Okay, now pay attention. I didn't see that. Eddie Barron, Will Johnson, Loveland to the 49ers. Mike Green off the board. Kellen Banks off the board.
Mike Green goes off the board. Where did he go off the board at?
Mike Green went to, I believe, Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins. Okay, that's
Okay.
good pick. That's good pick. We see 2 tight ends go back to back, so the run on tight ends happened.
Yeah.
Scroll down a little more. Sorry, Dan, you're just the
No.
closest to it.
You're good.
I mean, none of these picks really affect us any sort of way, but I just wanted to see outside of Mike Green, who obviously was a potential target. Will Johnson goes to the Bears. Kelvin Banks is a guy that people have flirted with the idea of the Bengals drafting. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, Donovan Azuruku is a guy that I've fallen in love with recently. He's off the board here, and now it's time for us to pick. We've got our pick of the litter, as Danny would say. We've got the Walter Nolans of the world. We all like Walter Nolan. We all appreciate Walter Nolan, Malachi Starks. Do you want that safety of the future, right? That guy that you hopefully can unseat a guy like Geno Stone. If you're drafting Malachi Starks, I'm assuming he's starting over Geno Stone year 1.
Yeah.
Jihad Campbell is a guy that if the medical things check out, you feel good about that, right? I guess, you obviously have a need at the linebacker position, but is 17 rich for that spot, right? 17 rich for that spot is the interesting spot. You still got James Pierce Jr. on the board, Kenneth Grant. So what are we feeling, guys? And we can scroll down, see who else is currently available. Nick Scorton.
Honestly, I was going to say, with the board looking the way it is, man, I'm looking hard at the top 3 there with Walter Nolan, Malachi Starks, and Jihad Campbell, and really positional value for the Bengals when I'm considering this, as well as just understanding that you have starters at safety right now, whereas you don't at some of these other positions that you feel comfortable as like being NFL caliber starters. I think that makes it an easy look between Walter Nolan and Jihad Campbell here for me. I don't have the medicals. Also, I like a lot of the linebacker prospects later, whereas I think you can get a really good value on guys in like the 5th, the 6th, maybe even the 7th round on some upside flyers. So with all that in mind, as much as I might love Campbell, the position scarcity, all of the Walter Nolan ability as a run defender, potential as a pass rusher, good athletic first step, like just the question is, hey, you've changed schools a lot, which he talked about being due to COVID and reclassifying and just changing after coaches get fired. Like there was a whole bunch that went into it, and none of it was like he was a problem and got kicked off the team. So with his ability, with his potential, with his age, being from a big program, he just checks so many of the boxes for the Bengals, whereas so many of these other guys have 2 red flags about them, whether that's size that the Bengals don't traditionally like and off-field concerns in both James Pierce and Mike Green's his case, injuries and guys who haven't tested. Those are kind of 2 red flags that are burdensome for a lot of guys. So really it just narrows it down to me for Kelvin Banks, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, and with Nolan sitting here, I think that's really kind of easy pick for me for that one.
I think with Nolan too, I've talked about it a lot with Malachi Starks, but Walter Nolan is super, super safe. And I don't want to say that as he's a guy that has limited upside or whatever, but he's going to be a good pro. He's going to be a great run defender. He's always going to be an above average athletically. He's great. And there's still plenty of room to tap into. So I think it's, whenever you have a guy at a premium position that provides a relatively high floor with still reasonable obtained upside, it's hard to pass up on that. No matter who it is, it just happens to be Walter Nolan, who checks a lot of the boxes, as you mentioned, the big school, some of the production, the run defense, the ability to be a 3-down guy. He truly does a lot. And again, he's got so many things going in the right direction for him. And he's been one guy that's been able to answer some more of the concerns versus some of these other guys. There's so many things I like about Walter Nolan. It's just becoming more and more, unlikely for them to pass up on him, in my opinion. There's just so many things that just fall right in line with Walter Nolan becoming a Cincinnati Bengal if he's there, because I think there's a good chance he's not, but in ours he is. we had 17. I'd love Walter Nolan.
And real quick before, we kind of get to the rest, I think something that, people should be paying attention to on the draft day for me, and you guys can kind of chime in. I'm going to be looking very closely at the 49ers pick right here. 49ers and the Cowboys. These are the two, for sure. The 49ers, that's the spot I'm looking at kind of for Walter Nolan. Same thing with the Cowboys, right? The Cowboys could go Ted McMillan. They could go pass rusher to pair up with Micah Parsons. And then another one, it's this turn of the Falcons and the Cardinals. I don't know if the Cardinals will end up going pass rusher, but the Atlanta Falcons, that is their biggest need. And it was rumored last year that they were trying to trade back up into the first round after getting Michael Penix Jr. to select a guy like Latu or select a guy like Jared Verse. So as I'm watching the draft tomorrow, these are the spots I'm looking at because I firmly believe the 49ers pick and the Walter Nolan, that'll dictate a lot. Because if it's not Walter Nolan, if he's off the board, then I'm going to be firmly looking at these pass rushers. And the pass rushers I'm going to be looking at could be dictated by the Falcons and the Cowboys pick. So I just kind of want to point that out. I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you guys. As of right now, Walter Nolan's on the board. I like Walter Nolan. The last part of the conversation I kind of want to touch on is I think the edge rusher position is I think that's what we're going to be staring at tomorrow, about this time tomorrow. I think it's going to be something where obviously James Pierce Jr., Shamar Stewart, and one other guy that I'm curious, and I've just had a gut feeling, this entire process. I'm curious how they view Mykel Williams. And like I said, I know I'm not personally the biggest fan of Mykel Williams. I think at 17, I want a pass rusher. And that's why here I lean James Pierce Jr. or Walter Nolan. But I wonder how they view Mykel Williams, right? This dude is a guy, he's got the same size, right? People talk about, Shamar Stewart, 6'5", 265 pounds, the same size, and he went to a big school at Georgia. I'm just curious how the Bengals view Mykel Williams. We have understood his serious struggles when it comes to pass production, when it comes to actual pure pass rush sets, it's not great. And when you look at all the analytics, Evan, you can tell me it is absurdly bad. But I do think that there is room to grow with Mykel Williams. Like I said, he's one of the youngest players in this class, and he wasn't really asked to pin his ears back a whole lot. So he's the one guy. I'm just curious to see where he goes, and I'm curious to see how the Bengals view him.
Well, that's the problem, right, is that you do have to wait ideally 2 to 3 years if everything works out well for like a Rashawn Gary type where, yeah, you see some flashes for a year or two, but it really takes until year 3, year 4 where he's really putting it all together, or the Bengals – does it match up with their window? And it's tough because he and Shamar Stewart are the only ones who really match the size profile that the Bengals like out of edge, especially in the first round. Like a 250-pound edge is just like it's as much as these guys might be the best overall like edge prospects or pass rushers. I really think it's going to knock them down the Bengals board to like the back end of the first round, high second, even before we talk about just knocking them down a couple more picks for having off-field concerns, however legitimate they are. So I love Walter Nolan here. Jihad Campbell, I love him a lot. I would love to make him the pick here. If you could tell me his medicals are 100% clear and it's just like, oh, he misses a little bit of camp and then maybe like the first week or 2 or 3 of the season, like as he comes along, okay, yeah, I can get on board with Jihad Campbell here. But again, just the clean prospect profile of Walter Nolan. So many of these other guys at the positions you want have these multiple question marks. So unless you want to take an Emeka Ibuka or a Malachi Starks or, just any of these guys at positions that you really just feel like is a luxury pick right now, I think that Walter Nolan's pretty much the safest, quote unquote, as safe as you can be right now.
So let's talk about a name that has come up recently. There's more chatter with his guys surrounding Cincinnati and Shamar Stewart.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Shamar Stewart? Let's start there. Evan, let's talk to you first.
Again, this is going back to a lot like Mykel Williams. This guy is special in terms of his length, his athleticism. He rightly gets some physical comparisons recently to Myles Garrett because he's that level of athletic freak, right? The problem is there was never any production to show for it. And we talk about this when we talk about like Nick Skirton, right? Where at least Nick Skirton had the Purdue production, right? And at least he had the production on a pass rush win rate to where he was beating his blocks, even though he wasn't necessarily producing sacks and pressures as a result of their scheme and him, kind of dialing it back a little bit, not pinning the ears back. Yeah, we see a little bit with that Shamar Stewart. But at the same time, Shamar Stewart was 78th out of 142 edge defenders in run stop rate, which is, hey, if you're not going to be a good pass rusher and we got to wait 2 or 3 years for you to ideally hit that ceiling and figure out pass rush moves, well, then you better be a damn good run defender like Mykel Williams is, right? And he is not that. He's supposed to be that. He's billed as that. But I ask you, where is that production? And if we say again, like, okay, well, yeah, he's playing in the Texas A&M scheme. Okay, well, Nick Skirton was 29th out of 142. So why can Nick Skirton do it, but Shamar Stewart can't? And the answer is ability right now. But again, we're going back to, okay, so now I got to wait for you to be a consistent run defender, and I got to wait for you to develop any type of pass rush game. You have no productivity, which means you'd be an outlier to hit. And we're literally gambling entirely on the fact that you're big, you're long, and you're athletic.
Mm-hmm.
So was Marcus Hunt.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm like, hey, like, yeah, this guy's an intriguing prospect. But the same way Miles Murphy went at the back end of the first round, like high end of the second, that's where I see Shamar Stewart, and that's why I think that's a gamble on top of like what the Bengals can't re-up on Miles Murphy with less production.
The thing with Stewart in general is like when you look at it with the Bengals, like if you're a team with a greater history of development and quick development, just anything to get the most out of your players, then Shamar Stewart is a guy that it could be very appealing to a number of teams. There's a number of athletic testing, length, measurements that everybody loves about Shamar Stewart. That's why he's is ranked as highly as he is. Evan hit a lot about on the the negatives and the worries about with him, but just I'm not that I completely agree with Evan.
Oh yeah,
but just the positives a little bit too is just like. He's a guy that doesn't get the stats, but he's always around the ball. He's wrecking havoc. He's taking up space. He's a guy that just like it feels like he's making those around him better a little bit because he commands attention. He's so powerful. You have to kind of know where he's at on the field just because he's that like intimidating almost of a player for him. I don't know what the true upside in is for him as a player because he has so much technical refinement to go, but obviously he's such a great athlete. Just, maybe if he slides in and he can move inside, outside, show some more versatility than he did in college, he can be a guy that just wrecks havoc, eats blocks, commands a double here and there, holds a double well, and just allows, Trey Hendrickson to have even less attention, allow Miles Murphy to get a little less attention. Like, I'm not sure he's ever going to be a high sack guy, but I could see him being a valuable player just in the sense of being big, strong, and athletic. Like that's a valuable effort. I just don't. He'd
be the perfect guy to like. Yeah, it's just the perfect guy to draft when you have like a Carlos Dunlap and a Carl Lawson, or like you're just Michael Johnson and it's a guy you can bring along a little bit. But yeah, if you need to rely on him, you can. And he's a great, could be a top 5, top 10 edge rusher in the NFL within 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah. If that hits,
he could be a great run. He could be a great run defender.
And do you have the development to do it? Like you said,
it's just tough. Like, there's so much fun with Shamar Stewart, but it's just like, I don't think the Bengals are in a position to truly find out the player Shamar Stewart is, and that's my biggest holdup with him.
He's the type of guy the Eagles just like, we'll take him.
Yeah, the Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs, like these people that can just go out there. We're going to be good no matter what. Let's just see what he's got. The Bengals aren't in that luxury of
no, unfortunately not. You need multiple. Despite what some people have said recently, you need multiple starters right now.
Yeah. Yes.
And we got a lot of people in the chat are saying go Walter Nolan here. And I do think that there is one last thing. I'd be curious to see what the Bengals view as a trade down. I'd be curious to see, because there are going to be teams, I believe, that are interested in trading up. I don't know, maybe 17 is a little rich. But let's say a team that is trying to get up for a Colson Loveland, like the Chargers.
Bills have traded up in the first round 2 times, and I think the last 5 years. And they also have a good trading history with the Bengals. They also have 10 picks this draft. That's one area that's been pointed out as a potential trade partner there.
To move up, they could use an offensive lineman,
right?
But then it's just hard to pass on Walter Nolan.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean? It really is.
So
truly is.
yeah, at this point, I think we're going to be looking. I do think that this could end up being somewhat similar to the board that shows up tomorrow night. I think Starks will end up being here. I think Campbell will end up being here. I think James Pierce will end up being here. I would hope that if Walter Nolan is here, I'd be very shocked if they didn't take him. I really like James Pierce Jr. And
I just don't think the Bengals do.
Yeah,
That's as much as they've met with him. But that's the problem is, again, he weighed in even less than Mike Green did. What did he weigh in at 248, 247? Like that is really light. The lightest that they've drafted recently was Jordan Willis, who was 255 in the third round.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not a guy they take in the first round. Like, if that was the only prospect and he just loved the hell out of football and was just crazy good, and maybe they break away from it. But when they have a guy like Walter staring them in the face that checks all their boxes, if they feel good about where he is, like in terms of his passion for football, like I'm there. I think that's an easy pick for them.
Yeah, I feel like Walter Nolan's is the person that I would go with. You've been trying to search for a disruptor in the interior for so long. Don't overcomplicate it. Get your guy. Obviously, it'll be teams in the real draft that'll be interested in vying for that guy, but
might be one of your best run defender. Might be your best run defender immediately too, which is right. You're getting that pass rush upside too.
The one thing I will say, the last thing, only thing I say, I've been kind of quiet this show first to start, but the one thing I will say regarding Shamar Stewart is I do like his pass rush win rate. I do like that. I feel like he is consistently, being disruptive. You would like to just see better production. I mean, the numbers are concerning, but when you turn on the tape, it's hard to see. It's hard to it's not hard to understand why teams may like him.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something that has to be said for Myles Garrett. For Shamar Stewart. I think there's something to be said about his win rate. I don't think that him and Myles Garrett belong in the same sentence, though. I really don't believe that, but I could understand why teams would be interested in Shamar Stewart.
And he also said in one of his combine interviews, he said, I know that my thing is I've got to work on my hands. And I think that's going to be his step between being where he's at now versus being a superstar, is his hand placement, is his hand usage, is his technique. And if he can figure that out, he could end up being very, very good. But with the 17th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft, Cincinnati Bengals select Walter Nolan, defensive tackle, Ole Miss. That's how we start off our 6.0. Campbell gone, leaves the burden.
I've kind of come around on the ideal spot being defensive tackle in that first round because, like we've talked about, you need that starter. You need that guy who can be a disruptor on the interior. It's so valuable, not only in the run game, but in the passing game, to where even if you get a guy like Derek Harmon, who you worry about finishing, like, yeah, he's more of that penetrator, but he's slippery and able to get by you to where even if he maybe isn't making the play, he's blowing up the play, redirecting the running back, stopping momentum, putting pressure on the quarterback. So with all that in mind and all the options you have with offensive tackle and guard in the second and third round, I really think that you just get a significantly more quality defensive interior prospect as opposed to like the difference between, the next guard, whether that's Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel. I feel like there's not a big gap between them and maybe a Donovan Jackson in the second round or any of these other options that you have.
For sure. One thing I want to touch on really quickly is something that our guy from TWSN, Bill Sparks, says. He says, everyone comes to Myles Garrett, but my Shamar Stewart comp is Rashawn Gary. I actually agree with that to a T. I do see a lot of that. And you hope, Rashawn Gary wasn't necessarily the most dominating at Michigan. He was a pick that people felt was probably overdrafted, but he's a guy that has turned out a nice career for Green Bay. He's been a great player for them. I was talking to my guy Trevor this literally about 2 hours ago, and he was like, he was like, I really think that the Shamar Stewart pick makes a lot of sense for the Bengals. He's a disruptor. He's a guy that I think Bengals fans will grow to love. But he said, I don't think he'll ever be a double-digit sack guy. And listen, it's hard to be a double-digit sack guy in the National Football League. That's really, really challenging. For me, I still base it on production. And I feel like if Walter Nolan's on the board, this is a guy that, albeit his pass rush could improve. We all know it can improve. I still think what you get with that guy is something that, respectfully, I feel like it's not easily found.
You know what his closest physical comparison is?
What's that?
Of any edge player in the last couple drafts, Landon Jackson. who is available
Finch.
in the second round
Yeah.
more often than not. And that's a price tag I'm so much more willing to pay for a guy who actually does have some pretty decent production.
You know what? You want to hear the weird thing about this, though, man? I
Yeah.
feel like the Bengals are backing themselves into a hole a little bit.
Of course they did.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
you know,
what we said all free agency. We were like, yeah, they need to sign starter level veterans to where at least you may not love them, but you need to at least get a body there. And then they said, no, we don't need starters. What are you talking about? We have starters. We have guys who can walk out on the field and be on.
It feels like they're backing themselves into the hole, and that hole is going to be in the second round. We are going to pigeonhole ourselves, and we're going to draft. We're going to draft a offensive lineman.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, and it feels like obviously the name Wyatt Milam is a name that has started to come up. He projects much better as
The second round?
Mm-hmm.
the second round.
Second
Oh
round?
no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't say the second round has come up. Tate Ratledge is a name to come up in the second round.
Yeah.
Wyatt Milam's name is a name that has come up in the third round. Listen, if you ask me, which you guess you are kind of asking me, I feel like the Bengals would have run to the podium if Tate Ratledge is there at 49. And I think that every single time we do this draft, we see so many names at the offensive line, and we say, oh, we'll just pick that one. We'll pick that one. Guys, what happens if the run on offensive line happen? Because guess what? The league is always starving for offensive linemen. There are teams with multiple second-round picks. There are teams with multiple third-round picks. They're not going to just sit around and wait. Listen, this is a draft in which the run on offensive line could happen right after the Bengals pick at 49. I don't think the Bengals are going to have their quote-unquote pick of the litter in the second round. I think there's two positions that I could see teams making a run on in the second round. And those positions are offensive line and running back.
Yeah.
Those are two positions that I think we are going to see a significant run on. I do not believe the names that we think are going to be there in the third round are going to be there. So do you have to pigeonhole yourself and put yourself, because you made it so, right, that offensive line is such a massive hole and it's such a massive need, you need to do something. Listen, as much as I sit up here and I say, hey, listen, I think the Bengals need to draft an edge rusher, and I do believe they need to draft edge rusher because they don't have that beyond Trey Hendrickson, and who knows what happens with that situation. At the end of the day, I still believe in drafting best player available. The best player available at 17 might be an edge rusher. The best player available at 17 might be an interior pass rusher. It might be that. And guess what? The best player available at 49 might not be an offensive line. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what do we do if we pass up on offensive line at 49? And that's the difficult situation they've put themselves in. That's why it's so important to make sure that you use every resource to your ability to make sure you're fielding a competitive team. You know, you got to make sure you're competing in free agency. You got to make sure you're competing in the draft. You got to make sure you're doing everything in your power to make sure your roster is at the best of it, of its ability. And I don't feel like they've done that. And so here we are at pick 49, like we've done week in, week out. We're staring at the offensive line spot. It's a difficult life to be. It's a difficult life to be in. And let's be honest with ourselves, guys. I hate to break this news to you. And I know people don't necessarily always abide by this rule. The chances of Tate Ratledge being there in the third round, I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of tackles that also can project better at guard. And it's not a crazy thing, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, we've seen guys like Wyatt Teller, who were tackles in college, move to guard and project great. Most college football teams, they take their best guard. They take a guy that projects as a guard and move him to tackle because he's their best offensive lineman. That's a known thing. I believe guys like Jonah Savaina are going to go higher. I believe guys like Jared Wilson are going to go higher. I believe Tate Ratledge is going to go higher than people think. Sorry for that rant, but 49, if you don't know what I think they should do, now you know.
Yeah, that's, we talk about Tate Ratledge a lot, and, I'm just going to talk about the guy I talk about a lot here is Prince Ellen from Ole Miss. Like, I love the Tate Ratledge thing. I will never, ever disagree with it or never not understand it completely, but I just love Princely so much just period. He's I got a first round grade on him for me. Just an elite pass rusher. Just does so many things well. You can pair him up with his college teammate Walter Nolan. We didn't take an edge early. I think this is a great price for an edge, especially one with his pass rush win rates and production in the SEC in multiple years. He's just so many things well. And if you're not going to take an edge in the first, we took maybe following Walter Nolan at 17 just to get a pass rusher with this much pass rushing juice in the second round just makes so much sense to me. So much sense.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of at with this. And that's where I'm curious to see how this actually works is how do they get another pick? Because I think that it's very difficult for me to look at this and say, hey, like 49 is the spot. If we're talking offensive line, I think you have to go offensive line here. And I think that's what frustrates me is I hope that they can get another pick. And whether this is a trade down in round 1 or this is a trade down here, I hope that they can, because if you're looking at this, either way, you're looking at if we go Princely, if we go pass rusher, the offensive lineman we're going in round 3 may not be a starting caliber guy that we are super confident
It'd still be better than Lucas Patrick, though.
Totally. On the flip side, if we go with an offensive lineman, who's going to be the guys that we're really confident as a pass rusher? We're probably running it back with, Myles Murphy as our starter and Trey Hendrickson. Is that the end of the world? Maybe not. And maybe that's the way that this draft ends up working.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
The hope is by drafting a Walter Nolan is that everybody said, listen, everybody, I hate to be that guy. Yeah. We stood on the table and we said, and if you didn't listen to what Duke Tobin said, everybody's basically saying Lou Anarumo is why the defense was not as good as it could have been. That's what people are sitting on the table are saying. So you know what they're saying? By us drafting Walter Nolan, it's going to unlock Joseph Ossai because Lou Anarumo couldn't do it. You know what Walter Nolan's going to do? He's going to unlock the Myles Murphy. You want to know why? Because Lou Anarumo couldn't do it. That's what that pick is saying. Yeah. So edge is not going to be something that they're going to be like, hey, if they draft Walter Nolan, they think Walter Nolan solves all their issues on the defensive line. Because they're going to say we have enough talent in that room to we can get the most out of it. Is that a back-ass words way of thinking? 100%. 100%. Because at some point, the players got to play. You could talk about a player all you want, being great, this, that, and the third, and wanting to see them take that next step. At some point, they've got to play. Yeah. But if you're going out there, we drafted Walter Nolan with the first pick, okay? If you're willing to pass up on edge, right? If you're willing to pass up on edge in the first round, you cannot conceivably sell to me that they think edge is that big of a need. They're not looking at the guys in the second round and saying, hey, you know what? Let's go edge. We can go edge in the second round. If they punt on edge in the first round, they're saying, we don't need edge guy. We believe we have all the talent in the room. It's the reason why we brought back Joseph Ossai. It's the reason why we have Cam Sample in the building still. It's the reason why we have it's the reason why Myles Murphy is now going to be entrenched as a starter. They're going to get that guy every opportunity to win the job. So I listen, how I feel about it, if the Bengals don't draft an edge in round 1, they're not going to draft an edge. That's how I feel.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I don't go to the extreme that they just don't draft one altogether.
Okay, sorry. They might draft one in the back end of the round. They're not going to spend in the second round.
I will tell you, I agree because I think there's more egregious needs. Like we said, I think there is a real starter spot to be had at guard. There's a starter spot to be had at defensive tackle. I feel like that's what the early round picks are going to be. And I think that lines up with what the Bengals like to do because like I talked about with Mike Green, with James Pierce, it's not even just a round thing. It usually is a mid rounds when they're willing to deviate a little bit more. This is still kind of a premium pick being top 50. If, Skirton and Michael Williams and Landon Jackson are all off there, I don't know if we see them deviate from what they want to do when you have these kind of offensive linemen that they love in Tate Ratledge, in Jared Wilson, in Jonas Savina, and maybe even in Ariante Ursi. Like in any of these guys, you have potential with tackle guard, but they would love to have. And then you can look at edge player that is more their speed in the third round where JT Tumaloa, Jared Ivey, if he's still there, Elijah Roberts, Ashton Gelati, Jordan Birch, Savion Jones. These guys are all 6'6", 280, 6'3", 275, 6'5", 260. These are much more traditional edge rushers for the Bengals, and they do have pass rushing upside. These guys aren't like terrible prospects by any stretch,
Yeah.
but they are similar tier but different style to these second round guys, and I think you can get a handful of them in the third.
So, and I agree with you. We are agreeing right now. Let me just say that if I sound
I know you're
annoyed,
disgusted by how they're handling
I'm
it.
disgusted because
know.
I don't think it should be one or the other. I don't think it has to be one or the other.
It doesn't.
But
No,
all the tea leaves, all the mouthpiece things they're telling mouthpieces around the organization to put out, and they're putting that stuff out there, it seems like it's one or the other. It's either we get a game-changing interior defensive lineman, or we get a game-changing edge rusher. There's not a both scenario there.
Yeah.
There's not a both scenario there. But either way, they tell you, hey, we're fine with our young defensive tackles, and we're fine with our young edges, or giving our edges every opportunity to win the job. Now, there's a very real world of something that we have not done. And I'm inclined to almost even restart the draft and try it out, respectfully. I'm not going to, because I won't put the guys through that. But I'm almost inclined, what is there a world in which they do draft that edge rusher? Like Pete Schrager said of ESPN. What if there's a world that they do draft that edge rusher and then they say, hey, we're going to trade Trey for picks?
Yeah.
There is a world, because I don't know. Listen, I don't really read into what Duke Tobin says really much of at all.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was very non-committal towards Trey Hendrickson being a member of the Cincinnati Bengals in the year 2025. I felt like he was very non-committal. I felt like it was very surface level stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're banking on getting a more draft capital, I've got to assume the draft capital that you're trying to acquire has to be within the first 3 rounds.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I have to think.
Probably first 2, to be honest.
And what's going to garner you those said first, more draft capital, besides obviously the obvious in my thought process. If you do, if that's your thought process, let's say Walter Nolan is off the board because the Panthers are sniffing around Walter Nolan. The 49ers are sniffing around Walter Nolan. All of a sudden, these guys no longer have character concerns, right?
Yep.
It's amazing how that works.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got to address something here.
Sure.
Like, guys, we got to stop precluding drafting talented prospects in the first round because the Bengals went out and signed a D tier veteran off the street. We are happy to have TJ Slaton on the roster as a body, but we got to stop being like, why would we draft somebody when we have TJ Slaton to start? Yeah. You have TJ Slaton to start in the way that you could throw freaking, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Any of these guys, you have a body to wear a jersey to be out there on the first snap of the game. That's what you mean, because in no way does a guy who has 3 sacks and 40 total pressures and 800 pass rush snaps preclude you from drafting somebody who might even be a better run defender than him in the first place right now. So saying that like we have a warm body with a pulse to put out there as a starter, like that's like saying we shouldn't have a guard because we have Patrick, whatever the fuck his name is,
Lucas Patrick,
or Lucas Patrick. Yeah, like I that's like, oh yeah, we're good at guard. We're solid. Like we have Cody Ford. No, like if you have a good prospect at a position that you desperately need that can immediately be your best starter on the team, like what are we talking about?
They also put out a video with TJ talking about himself, and the thing he said was, hey, I'm excited. I know I'm going to come in and be this dominant run stuff. So he knows that.
Well, that's like, again, like, are we saying, hey, BJ Hill's just going to be your best pass rusher at D tackle for the next 2 years? Like, come on. Like, that's not a plan. That's
and the thing is, I don't fault people for saying that.
Yeah.
That's what
there are 4 defensive tackles on the roster, guys.
100%.
That is not enough. On top of the fact that McKinley Jackson is a nose tackle. I know we're all.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir.
I know we're all hoping that he magically develops to some sort of pass rusher when he looked inconsistent as a run defender already. The thing he's supposed to be good at, getting pushed around. Why are we overrating him so hard? Because suddenly he's in Bengals colors now. Like,
are you speaking to the mass, or are you talking
just
on the panel?
To the ether, to everyone?
Okay, I'm not
agree.
there. Yeah, I'm agree with you. I
love Chris Jenkins.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled with the Chris Jenkins pick. I'm not sitting here telling you that Chris Jenkins showed me anything that after my hopefulness of the draft, that he did anything concrete to be like, I have taken a big step forward and I can be the pass rusher next year.
And even
because I didn't see that.
Believe that.
Right.
So
One pass rusher is not enough. Like, that's the thing is like BJ Hill had a good year or 2 of finishing, but like it wasn't even like good. It was like, hey, that's average.
Solid. Good job,
Yeah,
man.
like we're happy to have it right now because you have DJ Reader next to it, and that's all you needed. But you don't have DJ Reader anymore, and you need something on that interior.
Yeah.
Like Walter Nolan could easily be the best pass rusher
Easily.
and best run defender immediately. So like that's why you draft him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Man.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, are we sticking with this, or do you want to try out the trade?
No, let's
Yeah.
stick with
I'd be
I don't
interested.
wanna-
I'd be interested, honestly.
I'd be interested
I don't
too.
care.
Would you guys? I'd be interested real quick. If
Evan's the guy that gets Evan's viral. I
I'm
don't
with
know.
I'm with the offensive line, man.
Yeah.
That's where I'm looking at right now. Like I think again, it comes back to I don't see that any of these edges, whether it's a Braden Swinson, whether it's a Princely, I don't see them ever being more than like the third down specialist because I don't think any of them will be able to hold up reliably in run support.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, again, we're talking about a specialist player at the top of the second round with pick
Right.
49. Like again, you can get a guard who plays 1,000 snaps for you, is crucial for your offense, and solves a problem for the next 3 to 5 years that we've been trying to do for years.
Can I tell you something, brother?
Go ahead.
I have a funny, sneaky suspicion. It's not funny even. This is how I think the draft is going to play out if the Bengals don't actually execute a trade. I have a funny, sneaking suspicion. And Logan, I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you put a gun to my head and you said, Malik, what are the Bengals doing in the first 2 rounds? I think they go defensive line, offensive line, offensive line. That's what I think they do. I think they double dip at offensive line. And I do think if I do read the tea leaves and I do listen to what people say, and I do believe if Tate Ratledge is there at pick 49, he will be the pick.
Yeah, I've always liked the idea of double dipping at line. Yeah, I think like obviously I'm not in charge, but if it was me, like that's why I'd go knowing I'm having the idea of double dipping. That's why I'd like another position here, knowing I'm gonna double dip. Because as much like we just said, it sounds terrible, but it is so easy to upgrade the interior of our offensive line. You know, like I know that's like a sad thing to say, but there's almost no world to me where whoever we draft and let's just say Tate Ratledge is gone. Whoever we drafted and we went somewhere else, 3 or 4, or we take Tate Ratledge here. Like whatever 2 linemen we drafted in between now and the 4th round, I firmly believe would be more talented than the interior players. On the roster.
And you know
Right.
the fun if Tate Ratledge is gone, they're going to even panic even more. I think and go and try to double dip and make sure they get a guy.
Yeah.
If that guy winds up being a swing tackle of the future or a future start, that's what it would be.
Yeah.
But if I had a prediction today, it would be Tate Ratledge and then probably Wyatt Milam in the 3rd round. That's my prediction.
Both start next year too. Right guard, left guard.
Yep.
No problem with me.
all right, I'm good. I'm good with Tate Ratledge here. I think it's a realistic pick.
Yep.
Sick.
All right.
I think you have to go him here. I don't think he's going to be there in the 3rd round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, multi-year starter guy who you can go ahead and make the pick, Daniel. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, you're
interrupt
good,
the
you're good.
process. Go ahead and do your thing.
No, you're good. With 49th overall pick in 2025 NFL draft, Bengals select Tate Ratledge, guard from Georgia.
There we go. Just wanted to say he absolutely had like first round quality tape and production like the years prior, tested like a great athlete. Like, yeah, he didn't live up to the billing as much last year, but you can believe that with the coming back off the ankle injury. The good testing shows that there's no limitations coming off of that injury anymore. You get the familiarity with Amarius Mims, already have that chemistry. Can't overvalue that. I think all that becoming, plus he's younger and coming from a big program, that all kind of seals the deal for me.
And I think something else with him is he's a little bit of a deviation from what they typically go with, is these younger guys in round 2. But and this would show you that the Bengals, what they view and how they've approached this, hey, they need a guy who's going to do it now. And it is a perfect pairing, with Amarius Mims right next to him. So while they may be deviating because of his age, he's 24 years old, he's also 6'6", and he is their typical size profile of these big interior offensive linemen. So on the board, we had a decent amount of people go. Jonas Avaina's off the board now. Angel Makuba's off the board. Josiah Stewart's off the board. Ariante Ursery's off the board. Omar Norman Lott, so on and so forth. Here's the board we're kind of looking at. I don't know if you guys can see.
You're good. Man,
I mean, if we're looking offensive line,
Listen, most drafts we've done before, we've talked about like as we wind down, we start to tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We start getting realistic.
Yeah.
Even more realistic.
Mhm.
I know who I would take here if we're talking offensive line again. But Logan, there is somebody on the tip of your tongue.
Is it Jared Wilson? Are we, dude? Go
I
ahead,
thought
go
so.
go for both of us, dude. I'm
Yeah.
in on this.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm here
so
for it,
in.
man. I'm here for
Jared
it.
Wilson is just so good. Like he's just so the worry, like from a Bengals perspective and like how they could view it is just, do they let him play guard year one? Do they view him as more of a center of the future? And truthfully, whichever route they thought, I really wouldn't care.
Mhm.
Like, he is a fantastic
Can't
player.
lose.
Fantastic player. One of the best athletes we've ever seen at the center position. An 85 pass block grade, a 90 pass block grade on true passing sets. It's center. Don't get me wrong. It's very hard to have a really low pass blocking grade as a center.
But it checks a box.
Yeah, but it checks a major
Right.
box with the athleticism, just with the SEC, the production,
Mhm.
the 0 sacks allowed, the 5 hurries allowed all year. Again, center, harder to directly
Right.
attach it to a center, but he is just so good. Like, I think he's clearly capable of playing guard because of the athleticism. And it's not like he's 6'3", 310. That's not like, maybe it's a little small for the Bengals. Like, that's a pretty normal guard size, all things considered. I didn't look at the top of the board, but he's more than likely my best player available, my highest rated player by a wide margin. I have a top 40 grade on Jared Wilson, fringe first round player to me. We're in the third round.
I
just
would
don't
like
know
to
if the
take a
Bengals
look at
pull
what
the
edge
trigger
players
on it.
are here, because this is
I
a
also love
scenario.
Elijah Roberts.
This is a scenario that you could definitely see. I think it's possibly a very likely scenario, whether that is Tate Radledge or another kind of offensive tackle hybrid here. Love the pass rush production from Kyle Kennard, but the utter lack of run defense kind of caps the upside compared to some of these other guys. You can see the very low run stop rate there. Very crafty as a pass rusher, but just not quite what I think the Bengals are going to be looking for when you have some of these other guys like an Ashton Gelante, like a Jordan Birch. These guys are all more their prototypical size, have great production at these good quality programs. I think that's going to be kind of more of these 265, 270, 280 pound edge rushers, maybe a 7 Jones from LSU. These guys, I think, are worth taking that chance on, of being that big athletic kind of guy in this third round that maybe didn't have the production, but this is the, I don't want to say the Shamar Stewart range, because he's these guys, but like the absolute like 1% of the athletic peak of size and all that. But like, yeah, this is like the Ross dress for less version of Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, this is where you take the more, like, the kind of player with the profile Stewart is. This is where you take them,
Right.
Now, I get the hype of Stewart.
If they aren't like a 1% athlete alien
he
physically,
is.
right? If you
Yeah.
were like 10th percent, like 90th percentile, yeah, you're probably
a
closer
high
to
traits,
this,
low
right.
production guy. He screams
Right.
upside. This is the
right. Yeah, like back into the second round. Yeah,
Yeah.
high. This is it. So I do want to just point that out as like, hey, I legitimately could see. That's the thing, man. Is I look at so many of these names, and it just, these all line up so much better with what the Bengals
really like
love.
Elijah Roberts, man.
It's what they love in their edge. Like, what was the last edge that they drafted that wasn't this size? It was Jordan Willis, and
I think Cedric Johnson can't be that big, is he?
Cedric Johnson's
was a
no,
7,
he's
but
not,
like-
no, but like
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like, and he had a crazy athletic profile,
Yeah.
at least for that. And again, it's a 7th round pick, to where it's like they just, for a guy who's going to be in the AFC North and hold down that traditional edge, especially if he's going to be your run defending edge counter of Trey Hendrickson for now, being the plan for the foreseeable future. And I believe they say, hey, he's under contract and we have the franchise tag, so you are under contract and you are on the team. Then, yeah, I could see them all being very good complements that could develop into quality pass rushers aside from him.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out there, is if you're looking for a solution at edge, this is not Billy Price. This is not Russell Bodine. This is not, we need a guy at a position, so we're just going to get the next guy. That's a quality look at the options. And of course, we need to say Darian Porter Jr. here is very interesting too.
Yeah, I think the one guy, I think if we're
Terrence
in this,
Ferguson's kind of interesting
I
too.
love
yeah.
Charles. I really like Charles Grant. Ever since you kind of saw him a few
Dude,
weeks ago,
I know,
there's
you
so
can't
many
avoid
really
that.
good connections that make a ton of sense.
Dude,
He's got a little more. I don't really think he's
the
a
Bengals need to
tackle.
overdraft a guy though, right?
I
So
don't-
like
I don't
that's
think he's a- I
the
think
kind
this
of guy
is a
they would
fine
love to
range
over.
for him.
Yeah, he's
But just I was in general, like, I know he's a tackle. I don't really
he's a guard.
expect him to, like, I wouldn't
probably a
consider
guard.
him as like a guy that has that flexibility down the road.
He might.
It's possible. It's possible.
He's the requisite athleticism.
If I'm drafting, I'm like, he's gonna be my guard forever. Not maybe. We'll
No,
see.
no,
Like,
yeah,
he's my
yeah.
guard. I love
for
it.
sure.
Let's move
Maybe
on.
he can
Yeah.
get some kick in that tackle.
Yeah, maybe he could be Jackson
Right,
Carmen,
right.
and everybody else is hurt. He can go up playing
Right.
tackle. I like Charles Grant a lot here too.
Yeah, I think for me, I really like the offensive line. If we're going offensive line, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a Wilson or we're looking at Milam. The one name, and I know Evan is going to absolutely kill me. I think an interesting name, if it is defense tackle and interior offensive line, I think Jack Sawyer is going to be in play here, to be honest. In round 3, if he ends up falling here, I really think that he is going to end up being in play, not only for just not only just
in the
for
third,
the Ohio
when
State
people were like,
connection.
take him in the second, I wanted to throw up.
He was a very productive collegiate player, and I understand the pass rushing upside isn't what you want. When I first watched him, I was really kind of shocked by the lack of, like counters that he had, if he didn't win off of his first move. But the fact that he was a captain, the fact that he had production in the biggest games, the fact that he was, a long-term starter, the fact that he's not even 23 years old, I think that they're going to love it. And especially in round 3, especially when we're looking at, their history of drafting defenders in round 3, I think that this is a perfect spot if we're not doubly dipping on the offensive line. I think that this is a perfect spot, not necessarily the player I would love, but I think that Jack Sawyer is a extremely realistic option because you get the replacement of,
that's the thing. I
think
the ceiling is Sam Hubbard, where it's like you get 6 sacks and like maybe he's a quality run defender, but he's also got really short arms, like 4th percentile. So I worry about
he's got small hands.
I worry about when you're not at Ohio State beating up on a lot of teams. Now, granted, they are playing, in the Big Ten, but when you get to the NFL and all of the guys are physical freaks instead of just some of them, does that length show up? Do you struggle to disengage on blocks? As a guy who already struggles as a pass rusher to get off of defenders and has to use power when the guys are all bigger, stronger, and longer, is your power profile good enough to dominate and still be productive? And I really worry about that for him, is like, hey, you were a good run defender. I don't know if you're still going to be an average run defender. I don't know if you'll ever be like the really good run defender that Sam Hubbard was. I just don't see that exactly from him and his size profile. That's the only thing that scares me. That's why I like taking advantage of some of these other guys with that length, with that size, and that athleticism to have the upside to be better than Jack Sawyer could be in the 3rd round. I'm rather to take the gamble than the quote unquote safe edge starter pick. I struggle to see the upside.
Listen, if you ain't going to build the trenches, via free agency, we sure as hell gonna build it right here. Basically what you said is you basically said you are going to rely on the draft. So if we're going to rely on the draft, and our job, essentially War Room's job, is essentially act as a resource for the Bengals front office, because obviously they don't have enough scouts to essentially help them make the right choice. Guys, I'll be honest with you, Wyatt Milam is a guy that I really like. I like Jared Wilson here too as well. But let me just explain to you why I like the Wyatt Milam pick, because I do think Wyatt could potentially be a tackle. If you're so concerned about the long-term future of a guy like Orlando Brown, even if he's not, he could be a very good guard for you, and that's what he projects to be. I understand the Jared Wilson pick. I am fine with the Jared Wilson pick. I'm just simply bringing that one up. He's a former wrestler. He's close by. Makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Checks a lot of boxes for a lot of reasons. Now, I was talking with one of my guys, and they said he might be, he could be a starter on the offensive line in year one at guard.
I agree.
And they said he could be more of a project at tackle.
I don't know. I just don't see the tackle. I see the 32-inch arms. I see the below average athleticism, and I see you already struggling to kind of stop that outside athleticism in college when you didn't even have necessarily a lot of true pass sets as it was already.
Very little.
That's the thing, is you have a low number of true pass sets in your entire career. Yes, his numbers look great, but when you have so few true pass sets and you have so many screens, play action boots, all of these things that prop you up, it was like when we talk about the offensive linemen for the 49ers, like you're playing on easy mode in that style, right? So when you're talking about going from a heavy screen RPO play action laden offense to something that is a very traditional drop back, because the Bengals do more of these true pass sets than anybody else, these 5 and 7 step drop backs without play action, without these things to prop up and help the offensive line. because that especially helps you when you're talking about getting beat by the athleticism and the quickness.
Mhm.
You get on play action into your set better, and you have more time to drop back and kind of understand, and you delay the rush. The defender can't just peel out at you. You don't have that luxury when you're playing for the Bengals. So that's what worries me and says to me that he doesn't have the tackle upside that some of these other guys do. I like him as a guard a lot better. Do think he needs to get a little bit of sand in the pants. 313 is a little lighter than I generally like, but
who do you like better at guard, Jared Wilson or him? Milo?
Jared Wilson.
Okay, so let's make the pick. Let's make it easy as possible.
I think right now you're getting a guy who's a great athlete, great footwork, can play 2-3 spots for you on the interior. Like you're set.
And he'd be a better center than Ted Karras day one if he wanted to be.
What?
And the Georgia line.
Yeah,
man.
no,
On the Georgia line.
I'm there with you, man. And again, if we're talking like you have to get a guy who has guard tackle versatility, man, like I think Charles Grant, we've heard the offensive line coach and the Bengals talk about offense or arm length mattering to them. Whether the debate, wherever you land on the debate about how much arm length matters and where the cutoff is, the Bengals believe it.
Yeah.
And the Bengals like these long arm prospects, these guys who are big, who are 6'6", 6'7", have the weight to them, have the arm length, have the wingspan, have the broad chest, look like tackles. And if you're looking for that tackle versatility, I think they're much more likely to go with a guy like Charles Grant, who has the wrestling background, the physicals, and also uses a coaching system developed by Scott Peters.
Yeah. I know this is going to sound, I don't want to say crazy because I think he's going to go earlier than PFF has him. But a guy I really think the Bengals are going to like with a clear and obvious projected move inside is Emory Jones from LSU. I know he's ranked 206, Daniel. So he's way down there. But just in general, like he's a guy that, I mean, coming into the year, a lot of people thought he'd be a first-round player. And obviously he didn't necessarily live up to it. He got a little more exposed at tackle. But I just think if this guy was, he was fully committed to guard and went into it, in this scenario where we're double dipping, I just think he checks a lot of boxes for the Bengals. He's at a big time school. He's going to test well. He's an athletic guy. He does a lot of things well. I don't really think, again, he's not really a tackle to me. So if they're looking for more like that, I think, guys like Wyatt Milam and these other guys make sense. But in general, I just wanted to say I really think the Bengals are going to like Emory Jones. And I think he goes a lot earlier than PFF has him projected.
Yeah, and I agree with that too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, brother, I ain't no way in hell I'm drafting Emory Jones.
Oh no,
I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
I don't even want to hear his name till the 6th round.
Was it Paul Alexander had him as the second round grade?
Put it out there like that means something to me.
It's a circle.
Woo! Players that have worked for me,
I'm
I was like,
this guy.
okay, Jax Carmen worked with you.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
All right, so we going Jared Wilson. We going.
I'm good with Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, heck, just fix the offensive line. I mean, I think that of the edge or taking Porter, who has fallen to this probably because of injury concerns. Because again, I'm going to keep saying it. You need corner. You're losing 2 of them after this year based on contracts. So you're losing at least 1. We're already relying on Fig Newton to be covering the slot.
For some reason.
That's, again, I like Josh Newton. I'm just being realistic about relying heavily on a 5th round corner already before you lose 2 more and then lose another one right after.
Let's put it in, Jared Wilson.
Okay.
All right, with the 81st overall pick in the
Malik is
NFL draft, Cincinnati Bengals select Jared Wilson, center from Georgia.
Joe Burrow, you're safe. Enjoy your
safe.
time back
Don't
there.
want to hear
Yeah.
offensive line.
And that's another thing too. Like it just opens up so much down the road. Now you have, obviously if Rutledge and Wilson pan out like you'd want them to, you have
The Ravens get Wyatt. That is such a Ravens.
It is.
Ugh.
But again, double dipping line here, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
It frees up a lot. Now you have 3 what you would expect to be good offensive linemen on team-friendly deals for quite some time, which is something this team has really never had. So, it could open up a lot down the road. Yes, maybe the defense still struggles a bit, whatever. But again, they've continued to kind of say Lou was a problem, Lou was a problem, Lou was a problem. And dipping in the offensive line is a very real possibility. I agree with.
Now, listen, the board is open up now. All right, we drafted. We got 2 guards. We fixed that position. Jackson Dart's still here, and that's not realistic. But we drafted 2. We drafted 2 guards. We figured that out. We drafted the defensive line. Now we can actually look at this thing and say, all right, who's going to make our football team better? Here's a couple things the Bengals are definitely going to want to do. They want to get a starting linebacker from this class so where they can say, hey, you know what? Sayonara, Jermaine Pratt. Even if, here's an idea no one's talking about. The Bengals, if they really, really, really want to do something, who's to say they can't make Jermaine Pratt in a trade and then give up like a their sixth rounder to move up in the third round or in the fourth round? That's something that realistically could happen. Obviously, a team would have to be willing to take on the contract, but respectfully, his contract is fairly easy to take on. I'm looking at the linebackers here that are staring us in the face. I still love Cody Simon personally, but the guy that we've talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks, we've only drafted him one time. Barrett Carter's still sitting here. And then you have the Al Golden connection with Jack Kaiser. Boys, if we're going to consider a linebacker here, and you couldn't consider the Penn State linebacker too, and Kobe King, if that's to your liking, we could definitely do that. I'm interested in the linebackers here. Don't know what you're interested in, but I think that's where the value takes us, especially for what you need. If you're saying we want to come out of this draft with a linebacker, with a starting caliber linebacker that makes us say, hey, we can move on from a Jermaine Pratt, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think, just to continue down the linebacker train, I've pounded the table for Barrett Carter plenty, and I will continue to do so. But just to talk about somebody else for a second, I like Jeffrey Bassa a lot too from Oregon. I feel like I kind of came to the party a little bit late on him, but I think he could be a guy the Bengals really, really like a lot. He's a former safety, so he's a little lighter, 6'2", 235. Maybe that could be a holder for some people. I don't know how Al Golden will feel about that, just in general. But he did a lot for this Oregon defense. He called the defense for multiple years now. He's a big leader in their locker room. A lot of coaches have gone out of their way to say that for him. He's just a good athlete too. He's a guy that ran pretty well at the combine. He checks a lot of fundamental boxes with his movement ability, his athleticism, his ability. When you have the experience of calling a defense, not that that's like a huge thing, but like it's a pretty big box to check over somebody who hasn't ever done it. And you've done it at a big time school with big time players around you in big moments. I think he just checks a lot of boxes that I think the Bengals could be looking for at the linebacker position.
Yeah, I definitely think that I do like the linebacker shout here because I look at all these guys. Probably my mind goes to I like Bassa, I like Carter, I like Simon. Jack Kaiser, Smile Munden. I think that this is the spot. If you talk about getting one of these guys
starting,
go out there and get one. So I'm really good with all these guys. I think that the captain and the ability to call the defense, I like Bassa, I like Jack Kaiser. Cody Simon's one that I know tested very well. He's probably one of, a show favorite that definitely loved his film. Let me look at the rest of the board, but I'm pretty set on going with one of these guys.
Can you trade players in this mock draft?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm almost positive you can. Yeah, right here.
I would just like to simply, because do we want to fit? Let me ask Evan this, because I know Evan is very against us doing like the whole trading players things and all that.
It depends. I'm not going to sit here and let us get them for a first, a third, a second next year.
Not. Obviously not. Hear me out. We're in the fourth round right now.
Yeah.
How serious are we about fixing the linebacker spot? Because my thought process is here.
If you're serious about fixing the linebacker spot, you do it earlier than this. That's my answer to that question. Right there.
All right. That's okay.
Continue your thought, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But so my thought process, if you're trying to truly fix the linebacker spot, you want to get you obviously brought in a guy like Orenberg, right? Feel good about that. I would like to explore the possibility of trading a Jermaine Pratt for a potential, only because it's something we have not done in this exercise before for the sake of time. Don't want us to have us here all day. Simply trade Jermaine Pratt, maybe offer up that sixth rounder, probably get an extra pick in either the fifth or fourth round and try and add a backer. Some team goes out there and they get a starting linebacker in Jermaine Pratt and they gather another pick.
So what are we trading for here? Another fourth round pick? Or what?
I would do another fourth round.
So we trade our fifth and Jermaine Pratt?
No, I wouldn't trade. I would try to trade our sixth and Jermaine Pratt personally.
Sixth and Jermaine Pratt for.
I would trade Jermaine Pratt for anything.
Yes.
If
I'm right there with you. Yeah. If it's just
let's say the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have a need at linebacker. He sort of fits their mold of what they've done at linebacker, so to speak. So that would be All
right. So 121, you're saying? Trade will likely be accepted. Do it.
Go for it.
Should we try to have them include their seventh or no?
I mean,
what is that? Is that our sixth?
That's our sixth.
It said though it'll be accepted.
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
Cool.
There you go.
Okay.
I like that.
All right.
Okay.
I like that.
Cool.
Oh,
I just want to do a different exercise, something we haven't done
Yeah.
before.
No, I would
I
just
wasn't-
love to pick that pick up in the third round.
100%.
If
I'm
if
there
it
with
means
you.
giving up a fifth
I'm
rounder
there.
instead.
I am there with you.
I'm
I'm
right
just like, yo, if
100%.
we're fixing this linebacker spot, shit, this is the sweet spot to do it, right?
We got 2 picks. I mean, we just traded for a pick 2 picks from now too. So like we can,
Yeah.
we're here,
And we
Like,
still have our fifth.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good. We're in a good spot here.
Right.
I really think that's
I
get-
just
obviously,
really would
you
have
always want better
loved
picks.
I just would have really loved to get into that last
I know.
tier of edge
Oh, yeah.
players
It's
that
just
could
fun to see Jermaine
actually
Pratt netting
and
that
100%.
too.
yeah.
So we rolling with a linebacker.
Rolling with a linebacker. I personally would draft Jack Kaiser here. The reason being is I don't think they're going to ignore the Al Golden connection. I think that if you and respectfully, they're not going. I mean, it's a sweet spot for them. And it's like, all right, yeah, let's put Jack Kaiser together with Logan Wilson. We feel so good about that. Is Jack Kaiser that much of an upgrade over Jermaine Pratt? Probably looking at it like, yeah, I mean, Jack Kaiser can do a lot. My personal favorite, Cody Simon. I love Cody Simon. I like Barrett Carter. I love Cody Simon.
I think Kaiser's very realistic.
I think Kaiser makes sense.
Kaiser's also going to be 25 by the
Hell
time.
yes. Hell yes.
That's,
Yeah.
that's like that's.
But you-
But
did you
is
see-
that is
Did
that
you see the article today? Apparently, the team likes Demetrius.
Demetrius Knight?
they
Yeah, I
drafted
don't.
Jermaine Pratt, so I'm
Yeah.
sure they'll do
Yeah.
that.
It's like,
Yeah, that's fair.
He's old.
Jermaine Pratt. He is old. Bro.
Yeah.
But like I like Demetrius Knight too.
Yeah.
But Demetrius
Doesn't mean I
Knight was
drafted
also
him in the first
good.
3
Yeah,
rounds,
I
you
just
know? I
yeah.
mean, like,
Yeah, they had
never
to pick in
know
the third
the
round,
need.
I think.
I think they'd be okay. They'd be okay with that in the third. I think if that's what it came to.
I love the Barrett Carter thought because of the slot coverage versatility that you get from him, and I think that's really valuable when you're going to be relying on a fifth round second year player coming off of injury to cover the slot full time.
I agree with you.
As much as
And do you know why I'm putting such emphasis on linebacker right now, too, guys? Is that the Bengals are going to be running the 4-3, and you're going to see them. Everybody made a huge emphasis on the nickel.
As in base.
Oh, base, yeah, they're going to be running 4-3 a whole lot more under Al Golden, whole lot more. He primarily has 3 linebackers on the field at all times. Lou was the direct opposite.
I don't necessarily like. I don't know if I would necessarily do this, but like if you know, I think Al Golden has a history of the 4-3. You could really argue 2 linebackers here. To be honest.
Oh no, that's what I'm
Back to
saying.
I think.
that's
you
what
could
I'm
really-
saying.
You could
This
really.
is-
'Cause, I mean, you still. I mean, I think Burks is fun. I'm glad for the addition of him. We just traded Jermaine Pratt. Now, you know, we still like Shocker Hayward. We like John Meta. We, you know,
Yeah,
but like that, we like whatever. We like whatever random we
Malik had to
signed,
ruin my
Giles
fucking
Harris.
night. We're running the
or
4-3
whatever.
base in
Well,
2025.
let me say
Jesus
let me say this
Christ.
to you real quick. Let me say this to you. I don't care where we go. I agree with Evan. I would love Barrett Carter because Barrett Carter can guard in the slot, and I would feel good at having an athlete, a guy that you can rely on.
I think you could wait on Jack Carter or Jack Kaiser for the
Here,
next pick.
I don't even care about a Jack Kaiser right here.
Oh,
Hear me out.
nice, cool.
I-
Glad we're on the same page.
I want Cody Simon out of anybody. Like,
Sure,
I don't
Barrett
care.
Carter and Cody Simon.
If we do Jack Kaiser, Cody
Yeah.
Simon, or Barrett Carter and Cody, as long as we come out of here with Cody Simon, the reason why is I like everything that they asked Cody Simon to do. He did at a high level for Ohio State.
I'll at least take
Let's
the
get-
athletic guys.
I'm with
over
Cody
the-
Simon at least.
over the 25-year-old
Oh, yeah.
non-athlete.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take Barrett and Cody.
Daniel drafted
Yeah.
Cody Simon.
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay.
so.
I want
Well,
Cody.
Barrett didn't go, so it's fine.
I mean, back to back.
Yeah,
yeah, just
and Barrett here.
yeah, just go ahead and take him.
Barrett Carter?
Yep.
We fixed linebacker.
All right.
There we
I
go.
like that though. I mean,
Yeah,
like
Barrett Carter.
that
All
up.
right.
it's
It's-
weird. It's weird double dipping
Yeah.
at line and then coming in and
Yeah.
doing it at
Steelers
linebacker.
get Will Howard.
But like, dude, as much as we all love, Logan Wilson's been hurt.
Had to get more
bit.
athletic at
Yeah,
linebacker
And if
too.
he were to go down with the current room, it's
It's bleak.
real bleak
Yeah.
in terms of just ability,
Oh, yeah.
athleticism, experience. Like
Jackson Dart to the Niners here.
they're
Wow.
so I mean, it's double dipping at linebacker is certainly weird, but like there's some thought to it, especially if the way we picked up the extra
Mhm.
picks here.
Mm-hmm.
I like it, and they're different linebackers
Yeah.
too. They can do a lot, especially if we're going to be in a 4-3 more. Barrett Carter can handle a lot more responsibility.
And Kaiser's still here, but I think we're good. We can keep.
They're good.
You know what, Daniel? I won't say it. There's 2 players here that I would consider here. One of them might be here in the 7th round, and feel free to slap me over the head and say, "Hey guys, we're." Somebody said Lawrence Pennington says Pratt is not leaving our Bengals. Okay.
Darn.
What are you thinking?
We still didn't grab that tackle. We've addressed it. You still can.
You looking at Logan Brown?
No, you know who I'm
Holland
looking at.
Pierce.
Brother. You know who I'm looking
No.
at.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
you know
that's
who
his
I'm
guy.
looking at, Mr. Violent.
Go
okay?
ahead. That's your guy.
Holland Pierce. Is there any? Listen, this guy is 6'8". He's a man amongst men. Listen, he's a dude that I feel would be great. Who's your backup tackle right now that you could say, if Orlando Brown goes out, I feel good about? Who is that? There's nobody right there. You fix the offensive line. You say, hey, you know what? We still need a left tackle of the future. That's Holland Pierce. That's Holland Pierce through and through. Sure, he didn't go play at the SEC, but look at his tape. Look how he just mauls guys. His hands are violent. It's what you need at the tackle, especially in the AFC North.
88-inch wingspan's
Man.
kind of wild.
Dude,
It's
That's
insane.
kind of nuts.
Need to be high five.
He's an absolute
36-inch arms.
handshake.
Yeah.
It's like this. He's like this. A bear over me. I got big hands. Listen, Holland Pierce is a man amongst. He's a pick that you feel good about. He's a pick I feel good about. Holland Pierce to me is going away.
I know.
I'm
Can I see
good
the
with-
board?
yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah, nope, Bengals, that you can still get Emory Jones in the 7th round, so don't fucking do it. You're right.
How
Never
does that
mind.
guy
Go ahead and
just
take him
have
the
a
second.
picture?
It's fine.
Oh, whoa.
Deion Walker.
Ho.
Yeah,
I'm
If
sorry.
we're talking best player available, I'm sorry, Holland Pierce. I love you,
what?
brother. But hold
Yeah.
on.
Why is he so
If Deion
far down
Walker
the
is still
list?
here,
Because he's been falling, man.
I don't care who you have.
I mean, yeah, from like
in
the
that
4th
room.
round to the 7th round is like that's a
Oh,
big
are we-
fall.
We're
What is
in
going on
we're in
with
the
him?
fifth.
Yeah.
We're in the fifth.
Oh, okay. Jesus Christ.
What's our pick? Yeah, we're the. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we don't need
Right?
to take Holland Pierce right now.
Yeah,
We're
no.
fine.
Well,
Yeah,
we only
yeah,
have
those-
we only have our 7th round pick. That's the reason why I was going to do that early. But honestly, Deion Walker to me,
can
I don't.
play tackle.
Yeah.
yeah.
He can play tackle when
Yeah, well, figure it out.
Yeah.
he's huge.
Put him on both sides.
Yep, lock it in.
yeah, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I'm cool.
Or, or not. And then again,
All
I
right.
don't know. Yeah, take him.
No, you're good.
I don't know what the fall for him is gonna be.
Medicals.
Yeah, no, like
Yeah.
I'm just like how far it's gonna be, but again, we talk about Shamar Stewart. The upside with some of these players is insane, and
Right.
Walker is clearly one.
We don't pick again until the 7th round.
You want to trade up?
235.
Do you see somebody?
Want me to trade up?
Holland Pierce, that's about it. I want him.
I know you
I
do.
want that tackle over. I want that few tackles.
Let's trade up with the Bills right here. I mean, they got
what- what
they got
pick
2
are
other
we at?
picks. Well, I mean, we can wait. We can wait. It's up to you.
We'll see if they'll do it. I mean, it won't hurt to
What are we
ask.
giving up? A next year 7?
No, our 7th this year, and see if they'll take that. No, they won't do that.
Guys, you can wait.
You think so?
I 100% believe you
Okay.
can wait.
All right.
Thanks. It's a bit close since we did move back deeper.
What
He's always
about-
there in the 6th?
Okay.
But we are deeper than we are usually.
What are we at right now?
We're
Pick
gonna be
what?
at 235.
Yeah,
Last
we're
pick is
fine.
Usually
Mm,
1 something.
maybe we trade.
We're fine.
He says, "Wait." Okay.
Hold.
Oh,
Hold.
here.
Evans wanted to ride it out. They got 40.
Malachi Moore to the Browns. I don't know if I like this, man.
I would probably
Hold.
He says, "Hold."
keep going.
He says, "Hold."
Hold.
All right.
Stay
Come
true
on,
to the board,
Evan.
fellas.
Come on, Evan.
Gird your loins.
Hit me. Evan hits on 20, man. God.
I would. This is getting close, Evan. I don't know.
Everybody feel nice and tingly.
This is what it's all about.
This
baby.
is the NFL draft, baby.
This is getting close, dog.
Okay, hold. I almost had
Zach
you there,
Nelson
didn't I?
just went. Tackles are running thin. Jonah Monheim.
Oh,
Come on, Ev. Come on, Ev.
come on.
You could go to Seattle. Lady.
Wow.
Yes, let's go. Okay. All right.
Where the
No,
hell-
no,
Big
no,
trust.
don't do
Big
that.
trust.
Don't do that.
Big
Don't
trust.
do that. We were sweating. We were sweating.
That was
We
fun,
were
though.
sweating.
Oh, I was cool as a cucumber.
You didn't care.
Oh, they have because they've got him at 267.
Maybe that's the secret.
All right.
All right. Holland Pierce it is.
Yeah.
Holland Pierce.
All right, folks.
Yes, we
You want to clap it up for that? That was a good. That was a
I
damn
love
good
it.
draft.
Stepped it up.
That was a damn good draft, and honestly, the earliest we've ended in the last few weeks.
He haven't made a trade still.
I do want to do something really quickly before
Yeah.
we head out of here, though. But let's get this draft really quickly. Walter Nolan.
Yeah.
Okay. Walter Nolan. Listen, you get a game wrecker. Okay. You get a guy that and they gave us an F for Cody Simon. Wow. You get a game wrecker. You get a guy that you hope his disruptiveness, okay, is going to help you unlock the potential of a Joseph Ossai, Miles Murphy. That's what you're banking on, right? That is what essentially what you are banking on with this draft.
That disruptitude, baby.
Then you get Tate Ratledge in the second round. He instantly is slotted in at right guard next to Marius Mims, who he has some familiarity with. And it feels like that is the worst kept secret for Bengal Dome. If he's there at 49, the Bengals are probably going to run to the podium and sprint and put the ticket in for that guy. We come back after, we have a third rounder. We get Jared Wilson, a guy that everybody on the panel feels good about in terms of from the interior of the offensive line. You feel good about him at left guard, at right guard, at center. You just feel good about that pick. What, you don't feel good
no. For everybody just like saying the whole, like, again, going back to the he won't be there thing. The Walter Nolan won't be there. Daniel Jeremiah, again, a guy who is talking to a lot of people in the league, a lot of people setting their boards, especially now. Did not even have Walter Nolan in the first round of his mock draft.
But apparently, I think the reason why is apparently the Panthers are now considering him in the Niners now. Those are real things. And now it's like, okay, are they going to jump and be those teams? Because the Niners and Panthers.
Just saying, if a guy plugged that hard into the NFL scouting circles, the guys building the boards is saying maybe he doesn't go in the first round at all.
Yeah,
I think there's a chance at 17 to where we can't be like, oh, he's just not even there. He's off the board. Like
Ryan Sparks he says Walter Nolan going top 12. Walker has chronic back issues. I like the whole line pick. Well, that's a value pick. So you can argue the wall, I guess. We can disagree to agree.
Right. I like Derek Harmon too.
Yeah. And he's got some injury concerns.
Allegedly. You didn't hear anything about it all offseason. You didn't hear anything about it after the combine.
Right?
You didn't hear anything about it from Dane Brugler when the Beast came out, and then suddenly 7 calendar days before the draft, there's a shoulder injury with Derek Harmon. It's so weird. Did you hear? Wow. Yeah.
Do you like him?
You should tell people.
Do you like Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan?
Over Walter? No. I think the production, I think the profile of you had to come from Michigan State, you had to get your body right, and then you did make you did make all the changes you need. I think just the hey, it took you a while to get there and transfer and change your body. On top of the missed tackles, and maybe you're more of kind of the slippery gap guy as opposed to being able to actually hold up and win against a block as opposed to winning athleticism and kind of leverage. I think that puts him just below Walter Nolan for me, but it's really I'm trying to split hairs here. I do like Derek Harmon as a disruptor. And I think even if you aren't nailing the sack, even if you aren't tackling the running back 4 yards in the backfield at the mesh point, making that running back jump cut so someone can tackle him for 2-yard loss. Right. It does matter. When you get pressure on a quarterback, it turned prime Tom Brady into Andy Dalton. That has value, even if he doesn't get the sack. So I still think there's a lot of value to how disruptive he is.
I agree. You get Cody Simon here, who he's sort of going to help with that. Like I said, they're revamping the retooling of that linebacker unit. So now you have Logan Wilson, Oren Burks, Cody Simon, and then you follow that up. Once you obviously traded Jermaine Pratt, you traded for you got a 4th rounder and a 7th round pick. You gave Jermaine Pratt in your 6th rounder. So you added another pick and a sweet spot, I think, where the value definitely led us to linebacker. You get Barrett Carter, a guy who we love, guy we're gonna feel great about in coverage. You instantly feel good about your linebacker room. You feel like you've address the needs. Get Deion Walker. That was simply a pick that we didn't expect to be there at that. It was just a completely value pick. He's a guy that if he is healthy, you get a disruptor. You get another monster in the interior of the defensive line. You hope that the medicals check out with that guy and that his back injury is something he can come back from and wind up being a disruptive player in the NFL, because that size, that power is something that is hard to teach. I'm willing to take a swing on that in the 5th round, right? A guy that probably, if he didn't have that injury, where would he have gone then? Right. And then you get Holland Pierce, who you're hoping could be your tackle of the future in round 7. You feel very, very good about that. He instantly slots in as that backup left tackle, and you feel very, very good about this. All overall, guys, Daniel, scroll down. I just want to see what the overall grade is of the draft, please. The overall grade of the draft is a C+, and that's okay. I'll take that. They didn't like as many I guess where we drafted players considering where they are.
Ate your vegetables.
But you feel good about this. One thing I want to try real quick. I want you to restart this really briefly. But I want you to do me a huge, huge favor, brother. Well, when we get to the Bengals pick, hear me out. I want you to look at me. I'm the captain now. When we get to the Bengals pick, I want you, before we make this pick, to entertain the prospect of trading a Trey Hendrickson to one of these back-end teams. The two teams are going to ask you, I'm going to ask. Evan can veto me because Evan is the GM. I'm going to ask you to consider the Commanders, and I'm going to ask you to consider the Eagles here in a potential trade. If we do not want those picks, here's what I'm then going to ask. If we don't want to get another potential first rounder, I'm simply just bringing it up. And when I say we can simply just look at and see what the likelihood of them accepting that trade might look like. If we don't do that, what I would say is, hey, let's then see what team can we get a second. I understand what people might not believe this is likely, but if the board does not shape out with the way some of these teams might like, would they if a team has 2 second rounders or 2 thirds, would they trade a second and a third for the NFL sack leader? And I think that's very realistic. Yeah. So my question is, what we feel comfortable with, right? So we can offer Trey Hendrickson up to the Eagles at 32 or Trey Hendrickson up to the Commanders. I want to do that before we make this pick.
Yeah. I think you'd end up with like a second or like a third and a fourth because of the contract thing. Again, if he's under contract, you have more value there. You're trading for the right to sign him to a contract, lest you have the exact problem the Bengals have, right? I struggle to see the motivation for the Commanders. I know they're a young and up and coming team, but I don't feel the urgency that maybe teams like the Bills, like the Eagles have to compete.
Who's even their edge rushers, though?
The Eagles right now, they're kind of in the outside linebacker kind of mold too, which is like when you have Nolan Smith and Zach Bond and Jalix Hunt, and Azeez Ojulari and Bryce Huff, and you sign Josh Uche, it seems like you have a different type of edge rusher in mind for what you're doing for the Eagles. And so that's where I end up. But I do think, hypothetically, it is a good idea.
Commanders make more sense than I feel like
they could if you're looking for we just need a sure thing, and the sure things don't hit the market. Right. No, I can see that. So if you wanted to say
they got a rookie quarterback, that's just that's always going to help you a ton.
Right. You can afford it. That's for sure.
That's the thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could see, a second round pick from the Commanders. Maybe a third and a early.
The Commanders would, in my opinion, would have to be 29.
Well, hear me out. The Bengals are not going to give him away. That's
29
my
is.
process.
I
just 1 for 1.
Okay, how about this? Let me see. Let's see this. Daniel, hold on.
Yep.
The Commanders.
Let's go to the Eagles.
Yep.
I just want to see what the likelihood of the trade being accepted is. That's all.
For 32.
Yeah. What does it say?
Trade will not be accepted.
Okay, that's fair. I'm okay with that. So we have to then ask ourselves what team, because if the Bengals are trading Trey Hendrickson to a team in the second round, they're going to want more than just a 2.
Yep.
Yeah. They're going to want either a 2 or a 3 or a 2 or a 4. And I think that's realistic. This is the NFL sack leader, regardless of pass rush still matters in this league. So who has multiple picks?
I believe the Bears.
The Bears do. The Bears,
the Cowboys, the
Seahawks
Bills.
Seahawks have 2 seconds and 2 thirds. Bears have 2, and the Bills have 2 seconds.
The Bills, I would hate for us to trade him to the Bills.
Yeah,
I would hate that.
Seattle has 2 seconds and 2 thirds.
Seattle's interesting. Can we go to Seattle, please, Daniel?
Yeah. I mean, Mike McDonald.
Sam
Again, this is us getting absolutely wonky right now regarding this.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna be this is a fun exercise. Let's get it. Let's get a 2. Let's get a 2. Let's see if they give us.
They just signed DeMarcus Lawrence.
And their
82.
And Chenna Nwosu, who they also
Trey
signed from the Chargers. But that's not stopping you from Trey Hendrickson.
You could also do you can throw in later on. Seattle also needs a linebacker.
Throwing Jermaine Pratt.
Just bundle it all. Just put say here's the Bengals casserole that you get of all of our leftovers mashed together.
Let's go to the Bills.
Yep.
I don't want to do this, but I would do this because I know that they flirted with the idea of adding pass rusher at some point in free agency. You have 2 seconds, you said?
Yep.
Somebody else has to.
What's their back end second?
62.
Click it.
Yep.
Okay, Bills aren't interested. Cool.
But I don't know why.
I can think of a couple of reasons why. Dan, do me a favor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're just trying to
No, yeah.
just scroll down for me
Hmm?
on this. Sorry, you're gonna get some exercise now.
No, you good.
I
Okay,
mean,
this is round 2. Scroll
they
down.
have AJ Epinesa. They signed Joey Bosa. They
Yeah.
have Greg
Yeah,
Rousseau.
they might feel they're good about
Yeah.
that. Okay. What about the Colts?
That's what I was just gonna say.
What about the Colts?
Like 45.
This is our Colts.
Panthers.
Colts have 45.
Wow.
I don't know why this shit. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I mean, does nobody just want Trey Hendrickson?
And we could force one. If we really wanted.
Nah,
Just to experiment with
yeah.
something.
What if
Yeah, except two.
And I think this illustrates very well why the Bengals have had such a hard time trading Trey.
Yeah.
Is who do you have right now with immediate obvious need for an edge rusher that wants to give up draft picks right at their highest value?
Right.
And pay that guy. That's
Can-
the tough part, because I'd love to say you can get a second in the fourth, but I don't know. I think
What-
you only get a second.
what about the
maybe.
Titans?
Interesting.
What they got?
Oh, they've got 35.
And then
Yeah,
103?
you might get
Ew.
you might get a third and a fourth,
What are they doing
like
over
out of
there?
that, but you're not getting
It's
49.
not,
I
it's
don't
just
think.
not making much sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just
Um,
tough
we're
man,
gonna keep
tough
looking.
sell.
We're gonna keep looking. Daniel, can you scroll down?
Yeah.
That pen is working right now. What about the Falcons?
Jesse Bates and Trey Hendrickson? Can you imagine?
Recreate the Bengals defense, Super Bowl defense.
46.
Yeah, whatever works.
Nope.
46 will not be accepted.
I just like
Scroll
I
down.
don't know. I can't believe it's an empty bar.
Chargers.
Tampa, maybe. You're not paying many people. Yeah, they are.
Bears, somebody said. Did we try Bears already?
No, we've
Bears have
not.
Maul.
Bears
multiple
just traded
trades.
for Montez Sweat
They
last
did.
year.
They
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
I don't-
And they traded for every offensive lineman.
they did trade for a guy
Uh,
and pay him, except he
Panthers.
was 26, not 32.
Panthers, I don't think have a ton. They might have a little normal. They have a
Oh, they got
74 and 111.
57 is the second rounder.
This is crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be this. It would not
I
be
was gonna
this
say.
difficult if the Bengals wanted to truly trade him. It would not be this hard.
Yeah.
I think you could fetch a second. Probably like the back end ones are 0.
The thing is, like the draft is the day before Christmas. Anything
Yeah,
could be
let's
in
keep
those
trying stuff
boxes.
while
Yeah.
they're
You've
talking.
got raffle tickets for prizes that you see in front of you, as opposed to the
What
raffle
about-
next week for prizes
Daniel,
that you don't.
Yeah.
What
right?
about the Patriots?
Mikey V.
Okay. And
They want him for free.
they want them for free.
Don't we all?
Go to the
Detroit.
go to the Commanders second round pick.
61. Will not be accepted on here.
Just don't. I don't know if I believe that. Not that matters.
If we included our 6,
No. This is
18% chance.
for a fifth.
we're trying to fit
For the 61, they
That'd be
ain't
dumb.
doing
I
that.
feel like.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like some of these would be accepted, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, this
Yeah, I
is
find it hard to believe.
Yeah, this is very
Well,
interesting.
if it was like 50% and it just wasn't going our way, sure, I'd buy that. But
What, do the
that's
Eagles
not
have a second rounder?
Not even moving.
most likely.
Yeah, 64.
64 would not be accepted on here.
Man, offer that trade.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I don't see. a
This
world
is
where they
interesting
say
to
no.
me. All right. So
We tried.
yeah, this is interesting.
I mean,
Huh.
we can force one that we think is realistic. Like, I think Seattle. I guess that's
Washington makes sense.
I just feel like I can't conceive there's a team that you wouldn't. I don't want to cheat the system.
Yeah.
But maybe the
That's the-
system's flawed, Malik.
Yeah, it could be for sure. I want to hurry this up too.
Yeah.
Dan, scroll down, please,
Yeah.
please. I know, but just put it down for a second.
No, I
Let's-
was just checking, but
Fuck
Let's scroll
something.
down. And the commander said no, right?
Yep.
Nobody's even sniffing interest.
This is interesting.
I
think the
just wanna know why it's
Chargers-
so low. That's the thing that's throwing me off. Nobody's even like close.
Yeah, it's like not even showing any interest at all.
That's
why
That's the part
throwing me
that's
off.
wild to me.
I don't really believe.
Is that 55 you offered?
Yeah, but they won't take 55.
86.
They would take 86.
That's just crazy.
Well, 55, 86, and we give them a. No, it's
Is it
crazy.
even worth it if you're attaching anything?
No.
No.
Well, this exercise was
It's a good thought.
it's a good thought.
It was a great.
It was
thought.
good to talk about, but you know what? It is 8:32.
Takes two to tango.
It does
as they
take two
say.
to tango. This is interesting. So we now know PFF does not believe Trey Hendrickson is worthy of a second rounder.
Or even a third in most cases.
Okay. I wonder, hear me out. Just hear me
Yeah.
out, hypothetically speaking. Would that change and Evan, you know the system way better than us. Would that change if edge rushers came off the board? Like if we in this mock draft took Shamar Stewart and then James Pierce Jr. went, and then we offered Trey in the second round, once we're actually in that round, would a team then move? Because the board dictates that Trey Hendrickson is now valuable.
Or even if you like move the positional value slider up, does that stuff matter?
That is different. I don't think that the draft would. I think the sliders might.
Yeah.
To where if you adjusted the sliders and put positional value way up there, they might have
Positional
more.
More.
Just see, might as well.
Let's draft for
But that's the
needs.
only thing
Draft
I
for
can
needs or
see.
no?
That doesn't matter.
Alright.
Just see if it does anything differently for the odds.
Let's see. Trey Henderson.
Just like go to one that you remember as being,
Just
18 or
anything.
20%, and
Yeah.
then try that again.
Well,
And
Commander second.
Commander second.
No,
No,
doesn't
nothing.
matter. Well, we tried again twice. Yeah, I can't.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Falcons. I'm trying, man.
I
mean, the Falcons
So,
didn't take a pass rusher.
That's what I was asking myself. I was saying, do we think with the positional value trait slider up now, and now that with more edge rushers off the board, would that value go up? And you say you don't think so, Evan?
I don't think so. But
Over here.
I don't think
Let's.
I don't think the draft results
Yeah.
are affecting it. If they do, very minusculely.
Okay.
Changing the slider from positional value
Yeah.
from like 10% to
We took it all the
100%,
way up.
that would have like a bigger value. But it's not going to be like, oh, they're going to give you first rounders for them now
Dan-
all of a sudden. or
Danny,
anything
for an
like
exercise,
that.
do me a favor. Go draft a
Yeah.
player.
We're talking a difference of like 5 or 10% in value, not like, oh, they're just going to take any
Somebody said
Jermaine
maybe
Pratt
try
first
it.
rounder.
Maybe try it before the pick happens. I don't know what that means. Sometimes when you offer it, it changes the outcome.
Well, like if we paused it at 29,
Like at pick 12 or
Well,
something
I think
like-
I think he's saying if we would have paused, what would you take?
I took Shamar Stewart.
Okay. So we
like
see James
now.
Pierce Jr. went off the board.
Oh,
So
no.
now-
No, Lions wouldn't accept it for 60, and the Commanders would not accept it for 61.
Yeah. Yeah,
What?
this ain't this.
We've been at this for like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
dude, of just clicking buttons and
Yeah,
trying
it's
to like,
not-
why are
it's-
we trying to trade Trey so hard? Like, it's okay. We can just say, hey, if the Bengals had an extra 6 second rounder, here's what it would look like. We don't.
Yeah.
need,
So we were doing the exercise because people had asked us to do this the last couple of weeks, actually. And I got a couple of DMs of people asking. So I just wanted to
I
see.
think you probably have
see
to
if-
force something before the draft to try
Yeah.
and get you that pick. I think doing that
Yeah.
on the fly live is dicier.
Oh, he's saying, yeah, offer the trade earlier than the 17, someone's saying.
Oh, well,
before the draft.
I mean,
I don't think that's.
I don't know
gonna-
if that's going to change
Yeah,
anything.
I don't think offering that.
oh,
It's,
wait.
Yeah,
Positional
pause
value.
it, just pause it, and try it.
Offer
Or do
trade.
now, yeah, I guess. I don't think it's gonna matter, but it's
Probably
worth a look.
Commanders.
It's just,
Trey
it's just gonna
Henderson.
work perfectly.
I hope so.
That'd be dandy.
No.
No.
61. No. They would yeah, no.
I'll do it
I
for
just,
205,
the-
though.
That's interesting.
Program parameters are the
that's
parameters.
that's a premonition. Bengals pay Trey Hendrickson. Don't trade him.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's easier to pay your players than to trade them. Anyway, with that being said, we have tried. We wanted to try to do something a little bit different. We still feel like this draft went well. Appreciate you guys kind of sticking with us. All 175 of you hanging out with us on Wednesday. Tomorrow is draft night. We will be live for draft night 1 coverage and draft night 2 coverage. I'll probably be live around pick 10. I'm not going to be live for the first pick or the second pick or the third pick or the fourth pick because those are going to take a couple hours. I'll be live for around pick 10, probably pick 12 when it's going to be stuff that really impacts the Bengals. And then we'll go from there. But listen, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of State of the Jungle, the final State of the Jungle War Room. The next time you see our faces, we'll be discussing the newest member of the Cincinnati Bengals. And next week, I'll be on a beach somewhere. I don't know where, but I'll be on someone's,
good shit, man.
I'll be on someone's beach next week. And I'm looking forward to it. But until next time, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content, which is going to be tomorrow. And until then, as always, happy draft eve and hoo-day.